Antifragile, Things That Gain from Disorder by Nassim Nicholas Taleb introduces the groundbreaking concept of antifragility, a property of systems, ideas, and individuals that not only endure chaos and uncertainty but actually thrive under them. Taleb argues that while fragility describes things that break under stress and robustness refers to things that resist it, antifragility goes a step further. Antifragile systems actively grow stronger when exposed to stressors, shocks, or volatility. This idea is essential in understanding how to navigate a world filled with randomness, complexity, and unpredictability. Taleb begins by pointing out how modern society has an obsession with stability and predictability, often attempting to eliminate risk and uncertainty. He argues that this approach is misguided and dangerous because it makes systems fragile. When we remove small, natural stressors from a system, we deprive it of the ability to adapt and strengthen itself. For example, overprotecting children from minor injuries or failures might make them more vulnerable to larger challenges later in life. Similarly, overregulating economies or markets can create rigid systems that collapse catastrophically when faced with unexpected shocks. Taleb's solution is to embrace, rather than fear, disorder and unpredictability. The concept of antifragility is illustrated through various examples from biology, business, and history. The human body, for instance, is an antifragile system. Exercise puts stress on muscles, but this stress leads to growth and increased strength. Similarly, evolution operates on the principle of antifragility. Random genetic mutations that survive environmental pressures lead to stronger and more adaptable species. Taleb argues that the same principles apply to businesses and economies. Companies that survive small failures and adapt to changing circumstances are more likely to succeed in the long term, whereas overly optimized or rigid organizations are prone to collapse when conditions change. One of the central themes in the book is the idea of optionality. Taleb explains that antifragile systems thrive because they have multiple ways to benefit from uncertainty. He uses the example of venture capitalists, who invest in a range of startups. While most of these investments might fail, the few successes more than compensate for the losses, creating a robust system that benefits from randomness. Optionality allows systems to exploit upside opportunities while limiting downside risks. Taleb contrasts this with fragile systems, which are heavily reliant on specific outcomes and collapse when those outcomes do not materialize. Taleb also critiques what he calls naive interventionism, the tendency to meddle in complex systems without understanding their dynamics. He argues that such interventions often create more harm than good. For instance, overusing antibiotics can lead to antibiotic resistance, and excessive economic bailouts can prop up failing companies while creating systemic risks. Taleb emphasizes the importance of letting natural processes take their course, even if they involve small failures or discomfort. These minor setbacks often prevent larger catastrophes in the future. He calls this the via negativa approach, improving systems by removing harmful elements rather than adding new ones. Another key concept in Antifragile is the barbell strategy, a method for managing risk by combining two extremes. One side is ultra-conservative, while the other is highly speculative. For example, an investor might put 90% of their portfolio in extremely safe assets like government bonds while using the remaining 10% to take high-risk, high-reward bets. This strategy allows one to minimize downside risks while maximizing potential gains. Taleb argues that this approach reflects the essence of antifragility, being prepared for the worst while remaining open to the benefits of randomness and volatility. Taleb also examines the role of randomness and stress in innovation and creativity. He argues that breakthroughs often arise from trial and error, rather than from careful planning or centralized control. Many of history's greatest inventions, such as the airplane or the internet, emerged from iterative processes filled with failures and unexpected discoveries. Taleb calls this the anti-fragile tinkerer approach, which prioritizes experimentation and adaptability over rigid strategies. In contrast, systems that rely on predictability and linear thinking are unable to cope with the complexity of real-world problems. Throughout the book, Taleb critiques what he sees as the fragility of modern institutions, particularly in finance, politics, and medicine. He argues that many of these systems prioritize efficiency over resilience, making them vulnerable to black swan events, rare, high-impact occurrences that are impossible to predict. For example, the 2008 financial crisis exposed the fragility of overly leveraged banks and complex financial instruments. Taleb emphasizes the importance of building decentralized systems that can absorb shocks and adapt to changing conditions. He advocates for redundancy and decentralization as key elements of anti-fragility, arguing that they provide the necessary buffers for systems to survive and thrive in the face of uncertainty. Taleb's insights extend to personal growth and decision-making. He argues that individuals can cultivate anti-fragility by exposing themselves to manageable risks and challenges. For instance, learning new skills, taking on diverse experiences, and embracing failure as a form of feedback all contribute to personal resilience and adaptability. Taleb also encourages adopting a skin-in-the-game mentality, where individuals take responsibility for their decisions and are directly impacted by their outcomes. This not only fosters accountability but also aligns incentives with long-term success. The book concludes with a philosophical reflection on the nature of life and uncertainty. Taleb views volatility, randomness, and disorder as intrinsic aspects of existence that should be embraced rather than avoided. He critiques the hubris of those who seek to control or predict the future, arguing that humility and adaptability are more valuable traits in navigating a complex world. Taleb's ultimate message is one of empowerment. By understanding and embracing anti-fragility, individuals and societies can turn uncertainty into a source of strength and opportunity. In summary, Antifragile is a powerful manifesto for rethinking how we approach risk, uncertainty, and complexity. Taleb's ideas challenge the conventional wisdom that seeks to eliminate volatility and control outcomes. Instead, he advocates for systems, practices, and mindsets that thrive under stress and uncertainty. Whether in economics, personal growth, or societal structures, anti-fragility offers a roadmap for navigating an unpredictable world. By embracing randomness, fostering adaptability, and prioritizing resilience over efficiency, we can not only survive chaos but use it to grow stronger.